Hey, it's Bill Simmons. The NFL playoffs are in full swing, and the Ringer NFL show has you covered for all your pro football needs. Sunday night, get Michael Lombardi and Tate Frazier's rapid reactions on GM Street. On Tuesdays, the Ringer NFL show with Robert Mays, Kevin Clark, and regular guest Danny Kelly break down all the biggest angles. On Wednesday, GM Street again. On Thursdays, Clark, Mays, and Danny are back at it again. And on Friday, GM Street's Friday Focus gives you all the insight you need for gambling, fantasy, and everything else. Don't forget about my podcast, too, on Mondays. The BS Podcast, Cousin Sal and I playing Guest Alliance. More importantly, the Ringer NFL show. Subscribe right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
It is Wednesday, January 17th. It's about noon here on the East Coast. I'm Mark Titus. He's Tate Frazier. Tate, what's going on in LA?
Not a whole lot, Mark Titus. I'm sorry that I wasn't here yesterday. I celebrated a great MLK weekend.
Yeah.
It went a little bit longer than I expected. I took 2 days off for the patron saint Martin Luther King, and now I'm back. It's Wednesday, and we're ready to record One Shining Podcast. It's good to be back.
Before we talk about college hoops, I want to talk to you because Tate hosts a NFL podcast with Mike Lombardi called GM Street, and you are my NFL expert. And I famously have explained to you that I was a Vikings fan up until like 2000. Basically, as soon as Brett Favre threw the interception in the 2009 NFC Championship, I decided that was too much. I decided I don't like football enough to put myself through the torture of cheering for the Vikings.
Yes.
So I slowly weaned myself off of it. And this was the very first year that I didn't watch a single Vikings game all season. This was the first year of my life I didn't watch a Vikings game. And then the very first game I watched was the playoff game. And I just want to say it felt good to see the boys doing well. I felt like it was like an old friend that I was checking back up on, and I flipped the game over and I saw the touchdown and I was like screaming, and all the emotions came rolling back. So I just wanted to get that off my chest.
How guilty would you have felt if that didn't happen? If Diggs didn't catch that pass, take it to the house and win the game, and they lose, and that's the only game you watched all season. I think I would have had to. No, I would have felt if that would have happened.
I know, but I wouldn't have felt that guilty because that's what the Vikings like. Even as Diggs was running the ball into the end zone to win the game, I was thinking like, shit, we left him too much time. Like I was looking at the clock, like, please tell me there's 0 seconds left because I think they left him too much time. And by the way, I'm not trying to like pretend like I like, you know, I obviously don't care that much anymore. So I'm not trying to say like, yeah, I believed in this team all along, and I'm obviously a fair weather fan at this point, but I don't know. It was pretty cool. It's I don't know. You get older, you move on from things, and then you go check back in on them, and to see the boys are coming around. Like, so my question to you, Tate, is like, do the Vikings actually have a shot at this? Are we gonna? Are we? I'm gonna say we. Are we gonna win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think you're the team of destiny. Every time that
really?
happens,
are you just saying that?
No,
are you just saying that to bullshit? I really have no idea who's good at. I mean, I assume the Patriots are really good. So
yeah, it's basically the Patriots have to beat the Jaguars, obviously, and that's going to be easy. So you're going to play the Patriots, but nice. I think most people thought the NFC is better than the AFC this year, obviously, and most people thought whoever won that game, Minnesota or the Saints, would have the best chance to win the Super Bowl. I'm not gonna say they're going to be favored, but I think that they are the team of destiny at this point.
Well, I will promise you this: if the Vikings win the Super Bowl, I'm going to be very obnoxious and pretend like I was watching every game all year. I am going to be very obnoxious.
I love that you stuck by the Vikings when Brad Childress was the head coach and there was no hope, and now that you have like Mike Zimmer and this whole great defense, you're like I don't know. I'm a little tentative on this team. We'll see what happens.
I think in a weird way that makes me a bigger fan, doesn't it? Is that like I cheer for them when they suck and I don't when they're good? Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk some hoops though. I want to start with this because it's this time of year where our friend Seth Davis and his pet peeve of the court storming seems to have swept the nation. Seth is always on this corner, Tate. This is his thing. He's always on. But every so often, a controversy arises where the rest of the country joins in on the conversation. And we're a few days late. I'm not going to blame it on you for being sick, but we're a few days late to this conversation. But I don't know if you saw, Texas Tech did beat West Virginia. The Red Raiders stormed the court over the weekend. And a West Virginia player, Wesley Harris, threw a punch at a Texas Tech player. He has since been reprimanded. He got the Grayson Allen reprimand, like, buddy, you better not do that again or we're really going to be mad. That was his punishment. Texas Tech ends up getting fined $25,000, and now we're back again to where we always are at this time of year, it feels like, arguing about court storming. And I don't know, Tate. What are your thoughts?
It's a really tough week for West Virginia, right? I mean, they go into Texas Tech. It was a really good game. It was a back-and-forth game. I thought West Virginia had a real chance to win this one. Even when I think Texas Tech got like a 6-point lead with like 30 seconds left, and I just turned the channel. And then I saw the final score, right? They won by 1. Like, West Virginia still came back and almost won the game. So it was a real tough loss. And then when they had the Monday night game, the game that they're expected to win, Bob Huggins, playing in West Virginia against Kansas, this is a guaranteed win, a game that we've been joking about this whole year. They lose that one too. So we have back-to-back losses, back-to-back top 10 losses. And when you just thought West Virginia had a chance to get to number 1 in the country, they just completely fall by the wayside. And I don't know. I feel bad for Huggy Bear. I feel bad for all the West Virginia faithful. I feel bad for Nathan Adrian. I don't know if he's even watching these games, but I feel bad for him. And I don't know. Right now for West Virginia, it's like they deserve to throw a punch because they got punched in the gut this whole weekend and Monday night. So it's tough times.
I forget what's your opinion on the court storming thing now. I forget what your take is.
What do you mean?
Did you strike me as a guy that's like. You're a North Carolina fan, so you're a North Carolina fan, so you're up your own ass about how like we never would ever we win too much.
I've stormed
Number
multiple
2,
courts.
you wear your khakis and your tucked in polos, and it's like we don't want to mess that up. We don't want to scuff our boat shoes as we're running out onto the court. So I just wasn't sure. You're pro court storm?
Yeah, I'm definitely pro court storming. There's also like a guy, if you could court storm at Carolina, he just has a lint roller and he comes around and he does your khaki pants just to make sure that you're okay and everything's sorted out. But yeah, anyone that court storms, or I mean, I've had plenty. I was at a Maryland game when Carolina lost to Maryland against Grievous Vasquez in Maryland, and Maryland court stormed. It's all in good fun. I mean, as long as the players are safe. Usually, Roy does this thing where he'll just get his starters to go back to the locker room if he knows they're going to storm.
Oh, yeah, and he leaves the walk-ons out there to get trampled.
To fight for themselves.
Genius.
Because you got to earn your spot. Yeah. You got to earn your keep on this team. You got to be defense.
Roy would definitely be the worst coach to walk on for. Because not only does he do that, but he does the thing where Carolina's playing Duke in Cameron, and I don't know if this has ever actually happened. I'm just saying this is totally feasible for Roy to do. You're playing in Cameron, 2 top 10 teams, and the starters start sucking, and he just pulls all 5 of them and throws the 5 walk-ons in. And if I'm a walk-on, I just look at him like, are you shitting me, Roy? You're gonna throw me in to guard Marvin Bagley?
Well, you got to run the system.
Game of the year?
The starting 5's not running the system. You got to do that. Yeah, that's what he's doing. It's a real test. I think that the court storming, the overreaction is just classic college basketball, trying to tell kids what to do and act like you're the moral, authority on everything.
I thought so.
Yeah.
See, because every time we talk about it, I'm the one who makes fun of it, and you just kind of sit there and don't really say much. So I was just curious. I was just keeping you honest, Tate. My goal is, as a media member, now that I'm all grown up, now that I'm in my 30s, and I'm supposed to be taking life seriously, my goal is to go cover a game as a media member and then have the court get stormed and then basically join the party. I want to storm a court as an old man media member who, which I guess sounds very pathetic when I put it out like that. It sounded more fun in my head, but.
You know how I think those are the media row when people clap.
Really fun.
People like look at you weird when you clap. Like, could you imagine the looks that you would get if a team were to win and then you just got up from your seat and sprinted down to the court?
I'm piling over all the media guys. I'm elbowing Gary Parrish out of my way to get on the court. So yeah, you brought up a point that we were gonna mention, that West Virginia lost to Kansas. We have a few games that I think are worth kind of doing a little discussion on. West Virginia blowing the Kansas game is definitely one of them. The Oliver Luck strategy backfired. Mm-hmm. As we discussed on the previous pod, that Oliver Luck was keeping Billy Preston out until the Kansas game.
But he couldn't keep DeSosa out. He could not keep Silvio DeSosa out. So
he did get cleared. 2. Yeah, that's crazy. That guy that was going to change everything for Kansas, I guess he kind of has changed everything. Kansas won at West Virginia. He was the difference, Tate. Maybe that was the difference all along. I think this game was over the moment that Bob Huggins gave Bill Self that pullover and basically just conceded all of his magic and said, "Here." He gave Bill Self the playbook. He said the playbook is you wear this. And by the way, I love that the pullover that he gave Self was like 2 sizes too small, and Self's belly's popping out, and you just had the very prominent pop belly for Bill Self. I thought it was over then. Like Huggins has his style, he has his persona, and that works for him. And then he kind of like, it's like giving your secrets to the other team when he gave Bill Self the pullover. That was my opinion of what happened.
That was such a strange deal to, like there's nothing better than the big black pullover where you don't really know how big Bob Huggins is. And I also like that he thinks, that Bill Self is obviously super skinny compared to him. So he got like 3 sizes smaller than his own and got it over. And really they're probably the same size or, around the same size. The pot belly look. We all love it. But I think it gave self-confidence. He looked like he was fine. Mm-hmm. Even when they were down, he just kept like stroking his nice little pullover and was like, no, now I get it. Now I know where I am. Now I have my bearings. And that's why it was unfair. It was an unfair advantage. I wish you would have taken it off. That would have been fair to keep everything back in order. But I don't know. I'm almost upset that it happened.
That's my favorite version of Bill Self is the carefree one. The guy who everything's going to hell, and the camera cuts to him and he's just kind of smiling and loving life on the sidelines because he knows that game doesn't matter. He knew going into West Virginia they were going to lose. So he was like, who cares that we're getting beat pretty badly? This is fun. I'm wearing a pullover. And then when they start winning, it's just like ecstasy. And by the way, for you, was that more of a game of Kansas playing well in the end and winning? And does that teach us something about Kansas? Or is this a game of like, what the hell, West Virginia? What happened? You just ruined everything.
It was a game of when Kanade got in foul trouble. First of all, Kanade had one of the best blocks I've ever seen, and it wasn't even a basketball play. It was, did you see this block when he basically stands?
The volleyball block?
Yeah, he stands on the backside of the basket and tries to time it, and then he goes up as if you're going to spike a ball at a volleyball net with 2 hands and just goes straight up and swats you down like you're nothing. That was, when that happened, I thought West Virginia was a sure win. But all these Monday games, they were all comeback upsets. Or I guess not upsets, but they were comeback, like, get over the hump. This is a game we're not supposed to win. And as soon as Kansas started making a run, Javon Carter decided, I have to shoot every single time and brick it every single time, and I have to be the entire offense. And, when West Virginia gets into the I have to be a one-man show with Javon Carter, that's when you know it's a loss.
It's not – to me, the 2 things shine through, and they've kind of – bleed into each other with West Virginia. One is that their defense isn't as good as its reputation suggests, which is not to say that they don't have a good defense. They have a very, very good defense. They do not have a defense that is just completely shutting everybody down. And I'm taking Virginia's defense 100 times out of 100 over West Virginia's defense. No question about it. Virginia's defense is the defense that like breaks people and is consistent and is great. And West Virginia is just like chaos. It's just like, if you can find a way to calm down and not freak out, you can get open shots. And if you make those shots, then suddenly their defense isn't that great. But the other point I want to make is, as we've said on here all the time, they run the risk of foul trouble. Like Kanate and Carter were in foul trouble all night. And you could say like that's unlucky, but I don't really think that is unlucky. That's West Virginia. That's how they play. They foul every possession on defense. They are the offensive linemen holding on every play and daring and saying the refs can't call it every time. And that's not to say that West Virginia isn't a good team or whatever. I'm sure West Virginia fans are going to misinterpret what I'm saying. It's just that's their style of play. You're going to have these games every so often where the refs are going to be like, actually, you know what? We are going to call it every time. So now your guys are in foul trouble and you're going to have to deal with that. And that's kind of the thing to me with West Virginia, and why I've sort of haven't been as high on them all year as other people are. Like I've kind of come around. Like you can't deny when they won 15 straight. At that point, you're like, all right, well, this team is actually something. But yeah, that to me is like what I'm worried about moving forward is they do foul a ton on defense and get away with it. That's not to say they don't play great defense. And yeah, their offense is just, they have more weapons this year, but it always just finds a way to devolve into old West Virginia offense. It's just a sloppy, like one-on-one. Javon Carter against what was that, the NCAA tournament last year where he's dribbled it out and
the worst final possession of all time.
The worst.
You could barely. They did. I don't even think they got a shot off. Right, like it hit the side of the backboard, even if they did, and it was terrible.
Yeah, they always find a way to make those stereotypes. Like no matter what kind of team they have, they always find their way back to those stereotypes. And so knowing that, it's like it's hard to think like what makes this West Virginia team that much better than the other ones that have come before it, and I don't really know what the answer is. So,
speaking, we're going to go back quickly to Kansas. Devontae Graham, did you see his grandma?
I did, yes.
There's nothing better than that. Devontae Graham's grandma, and she calls him grandbaby, like not grandbaby, but Graham baby, and he calls her Grandma. Those are two great nicknames. Great play on words with the family. She's dancing the entire time. She's become Wayne Selden's dad. She's now going to be a star at every single game. She's getting a nice cutaway, and we're going to see her dancing, and then we're going to go back to Graham and say, this guy just loves basketball. He loves playing the game. His grandma loves watching him play. I'm excited for that storyline for the rest of the year. So shout out to Grandma.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention West Virginia, for those that didn't watch the game, I guess we forgot to provide this context. West Virginia was up 55-43 with 8:57 to play, which is 12-point lead with 9 minutes. The win probability I saw was 94.6 win probability, but now that I'm looking at the numbers, like that actually, a 12-point lead with 9 minutes is by no means like a lock. It's a bad loss to let a 12-point lead slip away like that, but I don't think 95%. But anyway, that's what the computers were saying. So basically, West Virginia at one point, it was a 95% lock that they were going to win, and they did not win. They choked it away. They were supposed to be the challenger in the Big 12, and I guess that transitions. We're going to get to Duke in a second, Tate. I know you're excited to talk about Duke coming back against Miami, but
no.
West Virginia losing to Kansas has Big 12 implications. Everyone wants to talk about the Kansas streak. Is it going to continue? This felt like the year it was not going to continue because Kansas has obvious flaws. They're not a very good basketball team. They just shoot a ton of threes and run up and down the floor, and that's pretty much all they do. But they beat West Virginia, who is supposed to be their biggest challenger. Their other big challenger, Oklahoma, shits the bed at Kansas State last night. And now suddenly, Kansas is back on top of the Big 12 standings. They're looking like they're going to do it again. Is this just a lost cause? Like, why even bother having the discussion that Kansas might lose a Big 12 at this point, right?
We said we're going to call it the Kansas Conference next year if they win, because then they would break Wooden's record, and we're on the verge of this happening. I watched that Kansas State game last night. Kansas State's defense, I mean, we were just talking about West Virginia versus Kansas's defense. I feel like Kansas State is right in the middle between West Virginia and Kansas. Their defense is really good. Might even be better than Kansas's defense. They were all over Trae Young. Trae Young, what did he have? 12 turnovers? That was the most in D1 in the past 5 years or something crazy like that.
He had the Evan Turner triple double is what I call it. It's where you get a double double with double digit turnovers. It's the Evan Turner triple double.
That's a great triple double. Shout out to Evan Turner for that. But yeah, and then Trae Young is averaging the most turnovers in college basketball. 5.8 turnovers per game. I mean, obviously,
it's a lot of turnovers.
That's a lot of turnovers. And he's had 5 or more turnovers in 4 of the last 5 games. That was a nice little tidbit that you had there. When I look at Trae Young and what's going on with him, I think the hype is getting to him. And we said this. We said this when it happened. We didn't want it to. It happened too soon. He peaked too early with everyone jumping on the bandwagon, and he needed a little bit of a breather. And I'm hoping that this game will keep people to cool the jets a little bit and let the guy just have fun again.
No, absolutely not. I'm in too deep. I said this already on the pod that I am in too deep with Trae. I'm a ride or die with him. I'm blaming all this on his teammates. Tate, he can't do it. He's too humble. His teammates sucked. They let him down. Didn't get him good enough screens. They did not catch his passes as he was chucking them into the stands. They should have got their hands on those.
Just jump, catch it.
They should have. Yeah, they should have got him more open so he could have made a lot more shots. Also, the Kansas State, if we're being honest, Kansas State wears that purple, it kind of messes with your eyes a little bit. You think it's black. You think you got a dark background to shoot into, but it's really a background of purple shirts, and it just kind of, I'm sure that played a part. No, I still think Trae Young's fine. The problem to me, what I think is going on with him is he's buying into the show too much.
Yeah, he's trying to do too much.
He's trying to do too much, but it's not just that it's not just that, it's that he knows that he's a showman. And this was something that we always make the comparison with Steph Curry because that's what everyone wants to do with Trae Young. But that year, what was it? The year before Durant joined the Warriors when Steph was just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, 2015, 2016, the MVP year where he was unstoppable and we did 50, 40, 90
I watched more
easily.
NBA.
Yeah.
I watched more NBA that year than I think I've ever watched in my life. But Steph that year, you could tell that he understood it wasn't just like there was like a game within the game. And like when he would go on the road, he would almost play better because he knew there's like something about like, I'm playing in front of people that don't get to see me all the time, and I'm going to put on a show for them, and I'm going to pull up from half court in Oklahoma City and just kind of act like it's no big deal that I hit the game winner. And he did stuff like that like all season, and you could tell that he was like a showman more so than a basketball player.
It's the way Jordan approached it. He was like, I am a show. I'm like the circus going on the road.
I think Trae is like feeding into that part of it too much. Is like, not only is he taking too many shots and trying to throw the ball all over the place, he's got that element of like, I could shoot this shot, but why do that when I could shoot this even harder shot? And if it goes in, then the crowd will really go crazy. Because that definitely has happened. Like you watch these games when he plays on the road, he'll hit insane shots, and you'll see the entire crowd just like their shoulders slump, and people just like drop their head, and they're just like disgusted. And it's hilarious. That's like the funniest thing. That's like the basketball version of the they have that thing in college football where they call it the surrender cobra, where you give up a big touchdown, and then like the fans put their hands on their head and they look like a cobra snake, I guess is the idea. That's like the basketball version of that is a guy starts getting hot, and then you see like the people just slump in their chairs and shake their heads. They're like, God damn, we can't do anything to stop this guy. Trae Young is aware of that. Every time he plays on the road, he's aware that fans are doing that, and he's like he's almost like trying to get those reactions out of the fans more than he's trying to win the game. And I know I'm not trying to overreact to one game, but he's trending that way a little too much. And if he just dials it back like 15%, we'll be back on track.
My favorite thing about what's going on with Trae right now is that I watched the game last night on ESPNU, and as I'm watching the game, he's having all these turnovers. You can tell he's frustrated. Kruger's talking to him, trying to figure it out. And I'm like, I can't wait until tomorrow when I wake up and everyone says Trae Young and Oklahoma has peaked. And I'm sort of joking. I don't think that's actually going to happen. But then I just Googled Trae Young, and that was the first 3 headlines. Are we sure Oklahoma hasn't peaked with Trae Young? And let me just tell you right now, that's not the case. Kansas State is a really good defensive team. They're a better defensive team than Kansas right now. And on the road in Manhattan is a really tough place to play. And you're right. I mean, he is buying into the showman act, but that'll get cleaned up once we get to the tournament and he has to really make plays and he stops thinking about all this other stuff. It's a lot to take in. He's got Steph Curry saying he's, really likes the way he plays. He's got LeBron James saying that, he's a cold-blooded killer or something like that. I mean, you get all these NBA stars and Kenny and Charles and Shaq are talking about you on TNT. All this stuff just happens out of nowhere. You get Bill Simmons losing his mind every time he watches you talking about how he's going to play on the Celtics next year. You got all these media people just clamoring over you all the time. He obviously looks at it all. He's on his phone. He's a young kid. I mean, it's hard not to buy into yourself a little bit, and I think that's just what's happening right now, and it's going to be fine because he's been through all this before. I mean, he went through a little bit of a high period, not too long ago, like early in December. And then he got humbled a little bit, and then he started doing some crazy stuff again. The guy still had 43 points against TCU. We can't forget that. And some of the moments he's had this year are insane. And I saw a great stat. I mean, Steph Curry's first game at Davidson, he had 13 turnovers, right? Like it's not his first game. He had 13 turnovers. So it's not like we haven't seen someone of this caliber have a really bad game. So I don't know. I don't buy into all this.
As it turns out, a 19-year-old who regularly shoots from 35 feet and tries to throw the most impossible passes in basketball is prone to an off night every so often.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have possibly seen that coming? I'm not overreacting either, but I am going to say this, that like less about Trae Young, more about Oklahoma as a whole, that the Big 12 race, like that one hurt last night, losing at Kansas State.
Yes.
Because we're not rooting, by the way, like Oklahoma could still win the Big 12, but we don't want Oklahoma to win the Big 12. We want Kansas to lose the Big 12 because every one of these losses, like at Kansas State, is a tally. It doesn't doom Oklahoma's chances of winning the Big 12, but it makes it to where the only chance Oklahoma might have is if they tie with Kansas, and we don't want to tie, Tate. We want Kansas to not. We want to see the streak snap. We want to feel something for once in our lives watching Big 12 basketball, and Kansas is making it very hard for us.
Let's be honest. Everyone in the Big 12 is wanting Kansas to lose because that means that someone else will get in the tournament, right? Like that helps with the case of the Big 12 if Kansas finishes in third or second.
we're at a point where like Texas Tech is our best hope. I think Texas Tech has only lost one game. Kansas has only lost one game. Oklahoma and West Virginia have now lost 2. Everyone else has lost 3 or more. Texas Tech plays great defense. They have a ton of athletes like that. I like that because that's not going away anytime soon. Like you're always going to have great athletes, and therefore typically always going to have a great defense. But just hear those words out loud. Like Texas Tech is our hope against Kansas. Does that instill confidence? I don't think it does.
We have a lot of confidence in Keenan Evans to figure this thing out. Well, let's hope Keenan Evans can do this.
They haven't finished 7th or better in the Big 12 in the last 10 years. So that's the team we're hoping can snap the streak that's gone on for like Tate's entire lifetime. I don't know. It's a sad state of affairs.
I just really wish that Chris Beard would grow a beard so that we could finally see if he can't grow a beard, but he won't. That's what.
Yeah. Neither will Jay Billis.
Yes.
Neither will Jay Billis, who's supposed to because Gonzaga made the Final Four. Speaking of Jay Billis, speaking of Dukies, we have to talk about Duke beating Miami. You and I have to eat crow on this one. I was for a little backstory for those that are just tuning in for the first time. Tate and I called this game before the season even started. I think on the very first podcast we said Miami is going to beat Duke on January 15th in Miami, and that's going to be like the announcement to the country Miami is here.
Yes.
So I'm watching this game at a bar on Monday. I played trivia with some buddies on Monday nights, and we're pretty good. That's a whole other side story, but yeah, we got second place this week. No big deal. So we're playing trivia, and I'm watching the game, and I'm seeing Duke gets down like 13, I think, with like 8 minutes left. And I turned to everyone at the table, and I'm like, hey, you see that game going on right now? Not to brag, but I called that. And I didn't just call that. I called that like in October that Miami was going to blow out Duke. I'm pretty awesome, aren't I? And then I kind of stopped watching the game, and we start focusing more on like the trivia and just kind of talking to some my buddies and drinking beers and stuff. And I look up, and like in the snap of a finger, as soon as I made that comment, Duke had tied the game. So I kind of hold myself personally responsible for this, Tate. But we almost called it. We almost had it. We were like 8 minutes short, though.
We did call it. This game was all there. It was all for the taking, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you why it didn't happen. And it's called Coach K not sticking to his principles. And this is a man that spent his whole career telling you about how he plays his way, and it's his style of coaching and blah, 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 yada, yada. So first of all, we got Coach K's jacket thrown off because Miami's just, berating them. This kid is like Muggsy Bogues in the first half.
Wait. Did that happen? He took his jacket off? I missed that.
Oh, yeah. Coach K threw the jacket off.
Did he throw it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
He threw the jacket off, red-faced, ready to go, rats on full attack. It was primetime stuff. Miami's doing great. DeJuan Huell is dunking over people. I don't know if you saw his Bagley in the first, 3 minutes of the game. He went to the locker room. So I'm like, as soon as that happened, I almost texted you and said, we got ourselves a win, Mark Titus. Because, as soon as Bagley ran to the locker room, I'm like, if they don't have Bagley, tonight's over. Grayson Allen can't throw it in the ocean at this point in time, and he was horrible against Wake Forest. Before that, so I'm just I'm like, this is a great night. I'm looking for the Duke upset. All things are going well. We get in the second half. Things are still going great for Miami. Brown's figuring it out. Lonnie Walker's hitting open shots. Likes is just driving to the basket, hanging in the air, making easy layups, even though he's like 5'1" or maybe even shorter. It was crazy. It was a great game so far. And then Gary Trent. I've never seen anything like it. The guy just cannot miss, goes unconscious. They scored like 16 points unanswered in about 50 seconds. I mean, it went from like a Miami, we're blowing this game out with 8 minutes left in this game to there's 5:50 left and Duke somehow is down by 2. And it was all Trey Duvall. Trey Duvall, a guy who has not made a three-pointer. He's almost worse than Theo Pinson shooting three-pointers. Somehow decides that he's going to start making threes in this game. Hits a couple big threes to keep him rolling. Gary Trent can't miss from 3, like I said. And all of a sudden, Miami is just backpedaling. They look lost. Larinaga doesn't know how to beat a zone. And that's what it comes down to. Coach K, a guy that prides himself on man-to-man defense and being a man in general and having guys that match up one-to-one against certain players, had to go zone against Miami. I mean, talk about breaking your principles. And, that's not Duke basketball, going to zone like this. But Miami was not ready to break the zone defense, even though it should be banned from college basketball like it was once upon a time in the NBA because we don't need zones. He went full Boeheim, sold his soul, ran a zone, and Miami couldn't break it for whatever reason. I don't understand. It's not hard to break a zone.
By the way,
and they blew it.
I'm going to actually disagree. I think it is hard to break a zone.
It's not.
It shouldn't be hard to break a zone, but for some reason, it's hard to break a zone. I don't understand.
It's all mental. It gets in your head. You're like, oh my God, what do I do now? Where do I go with the basketball? But really, it's just like someone get to the high post and everyone keep moving. Just don't stand there. If you just stand there, then obviously it's going to be a problem.
This is why I love Jim Boeheim so much, and I like him more than pretty much every other national, like non-Syracuse person, is because everyone else thinks the zone is like a gimmick, but the dude's like smart enough to realize that 19 and 20-year-old kids have no idea what the hell to do against his zone. And even if you tell them what to do, like get the ball to the high post, part of Miami's problem was they would throw it to the high post and they would sort of be open and could make a move. And so the guy who would catch it there would think he's obligated to try to score then. And it just kind of gets, like you said, it just gets in your head. You're like, okay, I caught it. Marvin Bagley or Wendell Carter, whoever's playing in the middle, whoever's on me, is sort of sagging off a little bit. I guess that means I should shoot it, or I guess that means I should try to drive him. I guess that means I have to do something now. And that's not the case. You could turn, you could like take maybe one dribble, shot fake, kick it back out. Like you don't have to shoot it. But that's how, like, nobody knows how to teach his own offense in college basketball. And it's like an epidemic. And Jim Boeheim's just laughing his ass off because Jim Boeheim has a terrible team this year, but they still have like one of the best defenses in the country. And they would be even worse if he didn't play that zone. So, didn't K pull out the zone against Michigan State too this year?
Yeah, he's selling his soul.
He's onto something. Yeah.
No, he's not. He's not on anything. He can't get the team to actually play defense. My question to you, did you see the dweeb lineup? This is called the dweeb lineup. I don't know if you've seen this. So they have this lineup of guys that Coach K puts out there when like the superstar one and done guys aren't trying hard, basically, when they're not like playing Duke basketball, like hustling on the floor. So he puts in David Robinson's son, Justin Robinson, who is, I can't believe he's related to David Robinson. He puts in Jordan Goldwire, this guy who's a 3-star comes in. He puts in Jack White, who's like an Australian kid that's, you know, sort of the same thing, quintessential Duke-looking guy, and he puts in Alex O'Connell, son of Dave O'Connell, former Dookie, and he puts them all in, and then he puts them in with a 5-star guy. Like I think he put that lineup in with Marvin Bagley. So if you watch them, if you just like went and just watched those 4 guys with Marvin Bagley, it would make zero sense to you why they're all playing together. It looks like it looks like the former Duke team, like what a Duke team used to look like in the 90s, and then like some freakish Chris Webber type guy that they just threw in with them. It'd be like if you had the 1991 Duke team with Chris Webber on it, is what it looks like. But it's so funny. They're like slapping each other in the butt. They can't get enough of it. Like Grayson slapping Alex O'Connell, slapping Grayson. It was sickening to watch. But I call it the dweeb lineup, and I hope we see a lot more of that. I'm hoping we get a lot more dweeb lineups.
Who's this O'Connell guy? I've been watching. This wasn't the first time I'd seen him. I've been watching Duke all year. Like I know who he is, and I know he's not a terrible player. But
no, he's good. I think he's going to end up playing big minutes for Duke.
Right.
It might not be this year, but he's definitely learning from Grayson. Like he's under Grayson's wing. His dad, Dave O'Connell. Funny story. His dad, Dave O'Connell, played at Duke in the 80s back in the day. And the lady that used to watch me after school, her name's Miss Kimbrell. She was a big Duke alum, went to all the Duke games all the time and everything. And so the Duke players used to come over to her house. This is back before K came to Duke. And they used to come over and like eat breakfast or like come over on Sunday, you know, after church to eat food and stuff. And Dave O'Connell used to always come over and play pickup. And allegedly he was a nice guy, but you know, in a Duke way. So if you were a little obnoxious kid, he wouldn't talk to you and be a jerk to you. So I think that's how Alex is too. But yeah, Alex O'Connell is in the Duke lineage. He is a Duke guy through and through. And I'm excited to see what happens with him. We need more PT for Alex O'Connell. We need more real Duke guys. I'm tired of all these one and doners that don't buy into the program. I want real, true blue Duke dudes. And Alex O'Connell, he fits all that.
Before we get off Duke, I want to just give some thoughts and prayers to Coach K for missing the Wake Forest game for sickness.
For a virus. Do you think he had the same thing I had?
Yeah.
I think he did.
Ooh, interesting. Ooh.
Did Coach K get me sick? I think he did.
Ooh, interesting. I just it's always sad when Coach K has to miss games, especially when his sicknesses, his illnesses, his surgeries, they always seem to align with the part of the schedule that is manageable for Duke.
Games he doesn't want to coach. It's just like a waste of time.
You notice he never gets sick in March. He never gets surgery in March. He never gets he never has health problems in March, but he has a ton of health problems. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Just very good luck that man has.
Coach K has never gotten sick for a primetime game on ESPN. Let's just say that.
Right. Right.
You check
also, that. In all seriousness, you brought up the 2-3 zone. You bring up Duke's defense. This was the reason I said at the beginning of the year that this was the game Duke was going to lose. The reason I've been saying it all year is because this sort of, to me, screamed of the turning point for Duke. I thought Duke was going to struggle defensively because that's kind of what they do every year now with the one and done thing, is they have no continuity, no chemistry on the defensive end, and they just give up a ton of points. And then in 2015, they flipped the switch in the mid-January. So I'm looking at this Miami game thinking that mid-January game is sort of going to have to be the wake-up call. So my prediction was they're going to get their asses kicked, and then this K was going to, run their asses in practice the following few days, and this was going to be the moment in time where like Duke sort of turned their season around. And I think so basically what I'm saying is like sort of keep an eye on that, because I think it might have kind of happened against Miami, like going to the zone. I think K's kind of found something with that, as much as you want to say that that's not, because Duke doesn't have to play great defense. The 2-3 zone is not going to shut teams down. And I certainly don't think they should like come out and play 2-3 zone for 40 minutes like Jim Boeheim. But he's sort of like found this ace up his sleeve that he can just kind of like throw out a 2-3 zone with his length and athleticism that they have, and hope that it could get some stops. And just how good Duke is offensively, they don't need to play great defense. They just have to play adequate defense. And I don't know. Part of it is like Miami was trash on offense, but so that's just something to keep your eye on, because like this is the moment. If Duke's going to win a national championship, this is about the time of year they got to start tightening it up defensively. So if they're still struggling like the next few weeks, and there's in a couple weeks they give up 86 points to some unranked team.
Mm-hmm.
Then we might be hitting the panic button if you're a Duke fan. But otherwise, everything is going according to plan if you're a Duke fan, which is why I think the Dukies are still going to win the national title, Tate. I'm sorry to say.
But let me just say this. There's no way they're winning the national title with the way Grayson Allen is playing right now. And I know nobody wants to talk about Grayson.
You're not wrong.
I mean, he's averaging what, like 6 points a game in their past 3 games or something? I mean, he's been awful.
You're not wrong.
He's been god-awful.
You're not wrong.
I think they need more O'Connell. Bench Grayson, put in O'Connell. That's my answer.
He had that huge steal and dunk against Miami, and then he did the follow through. I really wish we could hate Grayson Allen, because I would have made a mockery of he dunks the ball, and then like the way he like follows through, he like pushes the ball into the stands.
Yes.
And it was totally accidental. But if this happened last year, people would have taken that video and just like ripped it to shreds. They'd be like, look at it, what an asshole, hitting the ball into the stands after he dunks it. Yeah. I miss hating Grayson Allen. It was so much fun.
I'm telling you, he's so bad now that we can't hate him. It's exactly what happened.
Nobody hates him, yeah.
It's what happened to Greg Paulus at Duke. It's the exact same thing that happened to Greg Paulus. His first 2 years, everyone hated him. He was good, and then by the end, everyone forgot about him.
One more game I want to mention just really quick before we get on to the good guy, bad guy, Kyle guy segment of the show that everyone's waiting on. Michigan beats Michigan State by 10 in East Lansing over the weekend.
Wagner.
Moritz Wagner. Wagner drops 27 points in 27 minutes. He was in foul trouble. Michigan State has 18 turnovers. Just shout out to Tom Izzo for the manufactured adversity. Gets ranked number 1, loses at Ohio State, gets blown out at Ohio State, gets blown out at home against his rivals. You and I see right through this bullshit. I'm not panicking over Michigan State. This is par for the course for them. But I will say, our boy Miles Bridges is averaging 5.8 3-point attempts per game, and he's shooting 33% from the 3-point line. 5.8, Tate. That's. He should, and if you don't watch a ton of college basketball and you're not really sure how many that is that a lot? Is that not a lot? Miles Bridges should be averaging like 2.5 threes a game, and he's averaging 5.8 3 attempts. He's shooting 33%. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. If you're shooting 33%, maybe take a few fewer shots. I don't know.
It's like he's become a spot-up shooter like Matt McQuaid somehow.
Yeah.
He's really hurt his stock.
That's all he does.
I know. No, I don't really care about talking about teams, like what happens to draft stock, because that's so individualized. But with him, especially when he came back, we all thought Bridges was going to be a monster that's going to take Michigan State to the top. But it is he's played out of position all year. We keep saying that, but It's been bad. I don't know what to do. I think Izzo's going to have to make some sort of change. I hope they do some sort of death lineup where they have Ward coming off the bench, even though Ward's going to fight everyone if that happens. Yeah, we got to figure that out for Bridges.
Michigan State's in a weird spot. I will belabor this point the rest of the season until they do something about it. But Michigan State and Arizona are both two teams who have otherworldly talents on their teams, and DeAndre Ayton and Miles Bridges. And both DeAndre Ayton and Miles Bridges are playing out of position. And it shows every single time you watch them. They win games in spite of this. They don't win games because of this. Like, Michigan State has not won a single game this year because Miles Bridges is playing the three.
Mm-hmm.
They're winning. They're just like winning because they're so talented. And it has not helped Michigan State at all to put him in that position. It has not helped Arizona at all to play DeAndre Ayton at the 4. And that's something I'm going to watch all year. And that it kind of bothers me. But as far as the Michigan State, like, is there anything super wrong with them? I don't think there is. I think it's Miles Bridges plays the 3 and shoots too many threes, and they have too many turnovers at point guard. Like, that's it.
Yep.
You just figure those two things out, you're fine.
And we should say Michigan was the other team. Monday night was 3 huge comeback wins. Kansas comes back on West Virginia. Duke comes back on Miami. Michigan comes back on Maryland and makes Mark Turgeon once again a good guy. And so Michigan has 2 big wins. They beat Michigan State, and then they get a comeback win on Maryland on Monday night. So a lot of upsets on Monday, a lot of comeback wins, and it was a big night.
Michigan is playing very well. It pains me to say it, but Michigan is looking good. This is a good Michigan team, and Wagner's got it back. He was kind of struggling at the beginning of the year, or he was maybe not struggling, but just wasn't like the guy who. Like, in the NCAA tournament, he like burst onto the scene, and then he decided he was coming back, and everyone was like, "Oh God, this guy's gonna be great." And then he just kind of never really jumped on my radar, but he's back on my radar. Good to have you back, Moritz Wagner. Let's take a break, and then we'll do the good guy, bad guy, Kyle guy.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Tate, I got fantastic news. There's a revolutionary new detergent on the market that is designed just for guys like you and me. It is called Frey, and it was created to both smell better and treat your clothing better than regular detergents. In the words of one of their customers, now hang on, listen to this. Frey smells like GQ magazine kidnapped Liam Neeson's daughter to make him smell like Randy Savage was coming to kick their ass. That sounds pretty wild.
That sounds like something that someone at the Ringer wrote. So that must have been one of their customers.
It smells awesome. We'll put it that way. Go to livefrey.com and use the code SHINING25 for 25% off of your first purchase. That's livefrey.com and use the code SHINING25 for 25% off. Men's detergent. I actually need some of this. My clothes do not smell well. I need Frey, come drop a bag for me. What about me? What about the guy that matters? Come drop the bag for me. All right, Tate, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Speaking of dropping bags,
yes.
Good guy, bad guy, Kyle guy. It's been a little while. It's been over a week since we've done it. There are a lot of candidates out there. We're going to start, as always, with our good guy. Do you want to go first? You want me to?
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Good guy of the week for me. Starts with a G, ends with a G. Greg Gard, Wisconsin Badgers. Good guy of the week for me. 3-game losing streak for the Badgers. I watched them last night. They go to Purdue. Big Monday night game, primetime, ESPN, chance for an upset. You got Ethan Happ. Maybe he turns things around. Dan Dockich is there on the call. There's a big chance for an upset in the Big Ten, and they just completely get waxed. Ethan Happ was in harm's way all night. Yes, that was a joke. Matt Harms dominated Ethan Happ. It literally wrecked him all night. Matt Harms is an unbelievable freshman, and Isaac Haas looks unstoppable. Wisconsin just looks really bad. I don't know what Greg Gard can do with this team. They 2-4 in the Big Ten, 9-10 overall. This is the team, Wisconsin, that last year had the big upset in the tournament, big win over Villanova. Team that's made it to a Final Four not too long ago with Kaminsky and Decker. A team that looked like they were on the rise a little bit, but now with Happ this year, and I don't know, it's been all downhill for Wisconsin. Buzzcut Brad is doing his best to draw charges. He's basically most entertaining part of their team is Buzzcut Brad trying hard on defense. That's about all they have. Happ looks lost all the time. I don't even think he can get drafted anymore at this point. Total good guy, Greg Gard for me. What about you, Titus?
Happ can never. First of all, Happ was never getting drafted. Happ can't shoot. The thing that's the most frustrating thing to me about Wisconsin is in the preseason we were led to believe that Ethan Happ was going to be a shooter this year. He was jacking threes in the preseason games.
Yeah,
we were led to believe that he's going to expand his game, and he's going to be a pick and pop guy now, and he's still going to have all those post moves. He's still going to have the spin move going baseline that everyone knows is coming, but for some reason can't stop. But now he's going to be able to shoot, and he's going to be a killer and unstoppable, and it just hasn't happened, Tate. Watching Wisconsin at Purdue was it brought back great memories to last year when people were trying to pretend like Ethan Happ was better than Caleb Swanigan and should be considered big to play. And I was like pulling my hair out. Like, are you guys nuts? Are you watching the same game that I am? Because Caleb Swanigan is unbelievable. So
I will say this. Ethan Happ was a guy that PER, metrics, advanced stats, everything loved Ethan Happ the first 2 years he was at Wisconsin. Yep. And he's now regressed to the mean, and he is looking terrible.
In Ethan Happ's defense, I don't think he never asked for this. He was never a superstar. He was never supposed to be a superstar. Mm-hmm. Like he part of what makes him so good was that he could play off of Nigel Hayes and Bronson Koenig, and he was just sort of like the guy who didn't try to do too much, and people didn't really focus on him. And,
he was the third option. Now he's the first option.
Yeah. Now he's the first option. Like every scouting report starts and ends with him, and don't let him spin baseline, and he can't shoot. So like force him this way. Like that's the whole focal point. And Wisconsin's like throwing him the ball saying, Ethan, we need you to save us. And he's like, I have one move. I don't know what you want from me.
He's like, everyone knows that I spin baseline. I don't know what to do. Please take the ball back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like it's like he's been given too much responsibility, and it's like kind of not his fault. And I don't know. So I mean, I don't want to rip on the guy too much, but yeah, it's been a rough year.
No, we're ripping on Greg Gard for not helping him out. So Greg Gard, good guy.
Exactly. We're ripping on Greg Gard. My good guy, we already touched on it, so I'll make it quick. But Bob Huggins, West Virginia was ranked second in the country, had won 15 games in a row, and then Bob Huggins does a big time good guy move and bequeaths his fashion to Bill Self, and in doing so, blows the game against Kansas, puts West Virginia behind the 8 ball in the Big 12 race. They still have a shot. Like I said, they could return the favor in Lawrence still. They get to play Kansas in Lawrence. And like if West Virginia wins out, they're still going to win the Big 12. But if they win out, they're not necessarily going to snap the streak. And that's what's more important to me than any individual team winning. I need Kansas to lose. But Bob Huggins, West Virginia has now lost 2 in a row. I'm not freaking out too much. This is a case to me of like West Virginia is who we thought they were. They're probably not the second best team in the country. They're probably like the 8th or 9th or 10th, somewhere in there. So it's really not that big of a deal. But Bob Huggins is a very good guy this week, and that's my pick.
That's a good guy. Really good pick. Really good guy. Let's go to the fun part, and that is bad guy of the week. Sweeping the nation. A lot of bags being dropped. A lot of bad guys getting called out. This week for you, Mark Titus, who's your bad guy of the week?
My bad guy, I don't know if you saw this, Moritz Wagner. We talked about him already, dropped 27 at Michigan State. So he goes to the free throw line, and Fox, the game was on Fox, and they show the graphic, a little get to know the players type situation. You know, like what's your favorite rapper? What's your favorite Pop-Tart flavor? What's your
favorite cereal in the morning? Yeah.
Yeah, what's your favorite? Yeah, that sort of stuff where you get to know the guys. So one of the questions for Wagner was, what is the best advice you ever got from your mom? And you know what Mrs. Wagner said? She said this, Tate, ask me for money if you need it. That is a bad guy.
Yes.
That is a good, mom is coming through with the bags. You just go ask mom for money. She's going to drop the bag for you. That is a big time bad guy. We all want to have a mom who's a bad guy, and Moritz Wagner is lucky enough to have one. So I just wanted to shout out Moritz Wagner's mom.
Shout out Germany. That's good for her. She's got mad stacks in Germany, sending them over. What do you think it is? Like Western, like TransUnion, just sending over checks?
Does she drop the bet? Like what is the German currency? All I know is euro.
Yeah, I think they're using euros.
Just euro, yeah.
Whatever.
Do they have like their own? Yeah, whatever.
It's probably
how
just
is
like
she dropping the
just gold, just straight gold bars for the Wagner family.
Yeah, yeah. Moritz Wagner doing well for himself.
That's why I didn't have to go to the NBA.
How about you?
Now we figured it out.
What's your pick?
Bad guy of the week for me. I mean, we sort of touched on this on Casual Fridays this past Friday, but Frank Martin.
Yeah.
Bad guy of the week. He gets a huge win last night. We didn't even touch on this. Kentucky loses at South Carolina last night. So Frank Martin gets a big win. He also gets a big commitment from Brian Bowen, the guy that we all know about from the Louisville situation, $100,000 man, Brian Bowen. He goes to South Carolina. He will sit out a semester. They hope to have him back in the fall for his first full year. to play next year at South Carolina. We'll see if he actually does that or becomes a none and done. Regardless, he's in Columbia. He did transfer. He will be on the basketball team if he decides to do so next season. So that's a big bag drop there to get him, a guy that was at one point valued at $100,000. We do not know what the price was for this situation, but a bag was in the hands of someone, I'm sure. But I will say my number one bag guy, I mean, Frank Martin aside, is Kyle Lowry. I don't know if you saw this. Villanova gets a $1 million donation from Kyle Lowry for the new locker room and for the arena that they actually play in, because apparently Kyle Lowry plays there and practices there in the offseason, so he said he wanted to have nice facilities for himself, which makes the donation a little more selfish than you would expect, but it's still pretty nice, and he had a whole big thing, thanking everyone. What I feel bad about, how does this feel if you're Alan Ray or if you're Randy Foye or if you're Dante Cunningham and you see Kyle Lowry just dropping a bag of $1 million? You got to feel bad because those are all his role models. Yes. They were all seniors when he was a sophomore there. I don't know. I feel bad for Alan Ray and Randy Foye. They just got showed up by your boy Kyle Lowry. $1 million.
What can we figure? By the way, can we figure out the Villanova gym situation? Like they have the gym on campus that they play some games in, but they also play in the Sixers arena.
Yeah, in the Wells Fargo Center. Yeah.
Can we get Villanova their own arena? What do we need to do? Like, if the arena on campus isn't good enough, can we renovate it?
No, that's what they're doing.
Do something about this?
So it's a $60 million renovation for the new.
Oh, they are renovating.
Yeah, that they are building or renovating or whatever they're doing. And then Kyle Lowry gave $1 million for the locker room in that new place. That
makes more sense.
Yes.
I thought you were saying he was donating like $1 million just for, I don't know.
No, I think it's
for the 76ers arena.
I think he literally is. I think he's literally just giving $1 million so that the locker room will be named the Kyle Lowry locker room or something like that.
Right.
Which is genius. It's always good to get in early, so it's like named after you, and that's just the right way to play it.
Absolutely. I tried to do that with Ohio State when they renovated the Schottenstein Center. I wanted to figure out like what is the lowest amount of money I can donate to have something named after me, and not like a room. I wanted it to be like the Mark Titus refrigerator that's in the Michael Redd locker room or whatever, like I wanted something like that. And they, in typical fashion, they all just stared at me and were like, "Get the hell out of my office. Don't ever talk to me again."
You're not a bad
pretty
guy.
Much how every conversation.
That's what they said.
Every conversation I read. The one comment I wanted to have on Frank Martin and Brian Bowen. Brian Bowen, I don't know if you knew this. His Twitter handle is @20tugs, 20tugs. So, you're saying,
how did he get that nickname?
I have no idea. That's and this is a Louisville recruit.
Is this is this what they called him at Louisville?
This is
that's 20 tugs.
I just wanted to bring this up to our audience that Brian Bowen is like what I don't understand it. I'm not even going to try to understand it. I'm just going to smile and we'll smile and move on. Do you have anything with
they called Ray Spalding 20 pools. What did you say? Kyle Guy updates?
Do you have a Kyle Guy update?
I just Googled Kyle Guy to see what came up on Google News. It's not a lot. I don't know what Kyle Guy's up to, but they're just beating a lot of people. That's all I know.
What,
they beat NC State. That was probably their the biggest news for them, and I don't know.
We'll transition into shoutouts then. Speaking of Kyle Guy, we'll talk about Kyle Guy's teammate. Jack Salt, I wanted to give a shout out to for absolutely murdering an NC State player with the screen. This is apparently I'll be honest, I don't follow Jack Salt that closely.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a guy who I am tuning into Virginia games for. He's just kind of anonymous white guy who stands there. But come to find out, this is like a thing he does. He levels people a lot.
Yes.
And I came across a highlight video that a Virginia fan had put together of like Jack Salt, the best screens of his career. And it's like the most Virginia thing I think I've ever seen in my life. So I just want to give a shout out to one, Jack Salt, and two Virginia fans who they just get so hot and bothered over like good screens and shot clock violations and holding teams to like 12 points and a half. Like that's what gets Virginia fans going.
And trapping. They love to trap people in the corner.
Trapping, yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
So, let's just do it. Let's just transition into our shout outs.
Right,
we'll wrap this thing up.
Next up, I got a shout out. John Calipari, a guy that we have kept our eyes on, and he has done his best to keep, off ESPN, to keep himself out of the spotlight. He knows he doesn't quite have a team that he thinks is ready to be in the spotlight. but he finally brought himself back out. You know, they win at Vanderbilt. Ashley Judd was there. It was a good opportunity for, you know, all the Kentucky fans to come back out of the woodwork and say, hey, we're a real team this year. They go down to South Carolina. The Jared Vanderbilt comes back. They suit him up. This 5-star recruit, they're going to finally get back out there and have a real team. And Calipari, did you see this video of him hitting the half-court shot?
Yes, I did see
So
this.
he leaks that to ESPN, him hitting a half-court shot. He's like, I'm back, baby. He's like, I'm back. Look at me. I got my team back. I'm ready to roll. Brad Calipari's playing in the first half now. We're ready to do this. And then they just put up a major L. They just blow it at South Carolina in Columbia, right when he's back on the main stage. So shout out John Calipari for finally putting down his guard, putting his team back in the spotlight, and then just completely blowing it. So way to go, John.
Yeah, he won 2 games in a row. That's 2 games in a row at Vanderbilt that he's won.
Yes.
You and I talk about it all the time, how Calipari has problems at Vanderbilt because the benches are all messed up and he can't yell at his guys.
He can't yell out
My
switches.
guys, or his kids. I'm sorry. He can't yell at these kids. He doesn't know how to reach these kids at Vanderbilt. Yeah, he can't yell at the switches. He can't play defense for his team at Vanderbilt. But he's overcome that. He's won 2 in a row. But like you said, he blew it at South Carolina. Dare I say, should we bring it up? Is Kentucky on the bubble? Is Kentucky a potential bubble team, Tate? I'm not saying. I'm just saying who is Kentucky's best win? Like Texas A&M, who's in last place in the SEC?
Yep.
It's honestly probably Louisville, who is not a very good basketball teim.
And going to fall off in the ACC at some point. They haven't yet, but they probably will.
Yeah, Louisville's about to run into a brick wall in the ACC, and just I don't know. Kentucky and the SEC is not an easy conference. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, John.
I want to give a shout out to Colorado. Got their first ever win in Pauley Pavilion. I don't really have much else to say about that. But Tad Boyle, I thought Colorado was going to do nothing this year. Even when they swept the Arizona teams, when the Arizona teams came to visit them, I still thought that was more of the elevation and the home court advantage. And
it's always the elevation. About that. That's always the problem.
I talked about Tad Boyle was my bad guy of the week last week, and we talked about the home court advantage, and then come to find out the listeners of One Shiny Pod pointed out that Colorado is the number 1 home court advantage on KenPom. That's actually a thing. I don't know this. I don't subscribe to KenPom because I don't have $20 to spend a year. So I couldn't get behind that paywall. But no,
one day.
I'm joking. It's a joke. I also want to give a shout out. I just want to give a shout out to Tom Crean because there's no specific incident that made me think of this. I just, in general, I've already brought this up before, but I think he does an amazing job on TV. I love Tom Crean on TV, and I'm not doing this to to pay back for all the bad things I said about him to try to win some points there. I really genuinely think the guy is really good on ESPN, but I also think he is angling for the UConn job, and I'm starting to really think that's a thing. I think he's in Bristol because he wants the UConn job. And Kevin Ollie's lost 5 of 8. And I just want to give a shout out to Tom Crean.
I just want to give a shout out to the fact that the UConn job is there for the taking. It's a sleeping giant, and Kevin Ollie is asleep at the wheel. I think he wants a break. I think he needs some time off. So I wouldn't be surprised if that job is open and Tom Crean is right there in Connecticut, ready to take it. You're right. Good call. I want to do a shout out to Syracuse for breaking the 4-game losing streak and beating our boy Kevin Stallings last night. Jim Boeheim in an old Big East showdown. Pitt versus Syracuse gets a big win. Tyus Battle obviously showed up, got a win. He had 37 at Florida State on Saturday, but they lost that game. But they had lost 4 straight. They finally get back and right it. As every team in the ACC does, when they have Pitt on the schedule, they say, okay, this is a chance for us to right the wrongs here and get this thing turned around because that's a guaranteed win right now. And Kevin Stallings, it's his second year. There's no way he's getting year 3 at this point, right? We should just say that. We got to enjoy it while we can.
100% chance he's getting year 3. He has to get year 3. I don't even know what we would do if he didn't get year 3.
If he gets fired, we're hiring him on One Shining Podcast to be our third. He's gonna be like our color guy. He just says crazy things, and we're like, God, come on, Kevin.
In all honesty, Kevin. I really do think like I really do think he's one. I do think he's gonna come back, but 2, I think he's got good guy vibes somehow. I think like the Pitt fans, I think, hate him, and I'm speaking out of turn. Like, if you're listening to this and you don't know anything about this situation, do not listen to me on this. I'm not the expert on Pitt basketball, but my sense is that the fans don't like the guy. Obviously, they're terrible. We bring this up all the time. But I think like the media doesn't really mind him, and they think he's like a good guy and he treats them well, and he's one of those hard asses to his players, but then that's because they're beneath him, but then he's like equal to the media. I actually think he's like semi well received there, and people will make excuses for him. I mean, he can't keep this up forever. Like, at some point, enough's enough. But he could still. I still think it's like soon enough that he could say, "Just let me get my recruits in and do that thing." Where even though basketball, you don't need more than like 2 years to get your recruits in. He's still going to try that angle. I think he's going to be fine, Tate. He has to be. I would cry if Kevin Stallings got fired.
Tom Crean might be a Pitt. Let's just say that. What about you? Next shout out.
I wanted to shout out, speaking of great coaches who definitely should not be fired, Bruce Weber did just beat Oklahoma, so kind of shut me up there, but I don't know if you saw the final possession at Kansas. Kansas State had Kansas on the ropes in Allen Fieldhouse.
Yep.
They never win in Allen Fieldhouse, and there's 15 seconds left. Kansas State's down by 1, taking the ball underneath Kansas's basket, and Kansas State walks the ball up the floor, makes 0 passes on the final possession, and chucks up like a 25, 30-footer at the buzzer that never had a chance, and lost by 1. So I just wanted to shout out Bruce Weber for is Bruce Weber a good coach? The only coach in the Big 12 other than Bill Self who has ever won a Big 12 title is Bruce Weber. Did you know that?
Yeah, and he's been in a national title game, and he used to wear an orange coat. I mean, Bruce Weber, but good coach, possibly good guy.
But then he does stuff like that, and you're just like, is this man a good coach? It's hard to tell. So, yeah, anything else? Carolina. We should mention Carolina. This is one of the coolest streaks.
Yeah, I'll say it.
Carolina.
Carolina now 59-0 against Clemson at home in Chapel Hill. Clemson is still not won in Chapel Hill. It's one of the most stressful games every time that Clemson does come to Chapel Hill, because you don't want to be the team that finally ends the streak. I hope they can get to 60 the next time Clemson comes to town. Big win last night. Clemson at one point made 15 straight baskets in a row, and North Carolina still was able to survive this game because Cam Johnson somehow decided that he can shoot threes now. He's like 6 from 9 from 3. Joel Berry had a very ugly 17 points, but somehow had 17 points. Luke May had to get 5 stitches in the middle of this game and came back and still balled out. So North Carolina with a big win, keeps the streak alive, 59-0. Did you see the ESPN on SportsCenter? They ran through the scribe, so they put every single player's name that has beaten Clemson in Chapel Hill to keep the streak alive. They just had a scroll go while they were playing the highlights. And some of the names on the list are just so amazing. It's just like you forget that Julius Peppers is on that list. You forget like Greg Little's on that list, and like Bob Mack. You start going down the list, you're like, oh my God, this many people have kept Clemson from winning in Chapel Hill all this time. The scroll, they got done with the highlight before the scroll was over, and they just let it run. It was so beautiful, so much fun. I feel bad for Clemson. I feel bad for Brownell. I feel like eventually they're going to break it. I'm scared they're going to break it when they come back, when it's going for 60-0. But for right now, I'm feeling good about 59-0. Very fun.
It's going to get – was Maktar Jai on the list?
Yes, of course.
Love that guy.
Of course.
Love that guy. Has to be on the – love that guy. They're going to get it to 69-0, and then they should just purposely lose. That should be the goal. I have one more shout-out, and this is a fun one. So are you aware of the Gary Parrish Pull the Tax column? Do you know that he does this?
Yes.
First of all, are you aware of who Gary Parrish is?
Yes,
of course.
Right? Friend of Chris Vernon, who's also a friend of the show.
Colleague. Yeah, Memphis guy, works for CBS Sports. So Gary Parrish does this column where he basically looks at all the AP voters and rips them to shreds for like how big of it. He picks out the people that are, like if someone this week had Villanova at like 12, he would basically rip that guy to shreds in this column, right? So one of the guys he always picks on is Graham Couch of the Lansing State Journal, who this year I think is not very high on Purdue. I think that's the point of contention, is that Graham Couch this year has been putting Purdue like 10 spots lower than everybody else is putting him. So Gary Parrish is ripping him apart. So Graham Couch writes a column attacking the Pull the Tax column. So we have an attack on the attack.
A rebuttal.
Stick with me, Tate. And in it, he says that Parrish is like basically
a bully.
he's basically a bully, and not only is he a bully, but he's like militarizing all of his Twitter followers to come attack Graham Couch. And he said that Parrish is making Couch's wife cry.
Oh my god!
Like she reads these comments, she's crying. Couch claims that USA Today's Lindsay Schnell had a vote in the men's AP poll, but gave it up because of Gary Parrish, because Gary Parrish picked on her, and she lived in fear of the Gary Parrish column so much that she would actually compare her ballot. She would like look at like other voters would tweet out their ballot and say like, here's how I'm going to vote tomorrow. And she would just base her votes around that so as to not be picked apart by Gary Parrish. She was so scared of the man. So here's where it gets good. Couch writes this column attacking Parrish's attack. Parrish writes a column attacking Couch's attack of the attack.
Oh my god.
Of the voting. I just want to give a shout out to everybody involved in this feud.
This
it's
is
a great feud. It's great for the sport.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this many people first of all care about the people's votes, and like people are cowering to decide whether like give me that vote. I'll vote for whoever. I don't care.
I will vote. I will
attacked.
vote, and I will purposely leave Purdue off of the top 25 and just tweet a picture of myself flipping off the camera holding my nuts and tweet it to every single Purdue fan that tries to come at me.
Yeah.
Like if that's what it takes.
I will literally leave Duke off every single vote that I have, and I will answer for it. I will not be scared. I'm not scared.
But so the best part, so like the final column that I saw, I'm sure there's going to be another one, and they're just going to keep this going the rest of the year. Like this is all Parrish or Couch are going to write, or just rebuttals to each other the rest of the season. But so the last one I saw was the Parrish one, where he was saying like he was doing like self-reflecting, like am I a bully? Did I take it too far? And you know what he decided, Tate? You know what his ultimate conclusion was?
Keep writing.
No, he's not a bully.
Yes.
Yeah, could you believe that? I was shocked. He said he asked his Twitter followers like, what should I do? And
because those are the rational people that should decide these things.
Those same people who are like rabid wolves waiting for a piece of red meat. You know what they said? They said, "Hey man, keep giving us the red meat.
Yes.
We want to rip people apart."
Yeah, keep feeding us. We need this.
So the whole thing, I actually do read the poll attacks thing because I find it humorous and fun, and I like GP a lot. But it's just the whole incident is funny, and it's a great example of like journalists who like get too far into the weeds and just fight with each other, and yeah. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to, speaking of that, the free Darko guys, because if we're talking about that kind of stuff. You want to close it out with anything, Tate?
Yeah, let's do some quick closeouts. Zion Williamson, January 20th, decision day coming. I've heard a lot of rumblings and a lot of rumors, but I've heard a lot of things that I don't believe to be true. So I don't think anyone knows where Zion's going to go except for Zion.
He's going to Duke.
And his family. If he goes to Duke, Mark Titus, I'm not recording a podcast anymore. I quit the podcast.
So all this time I've been asking you about his options. You said it's North Carolina, Clemson, and South Carolina. I didn't even know Duke was in play. You purposely left that out for me, and I found this out on my own.
But they're not in play because they already have R.J. Barrett. And they already have a team. They have Cam Reddish. They have all these other guys. They're not in play.
And they also have one of the best bag droppers in the game today, in Jeff Capel. So, I mean, you might want to curb that thought there. Yeah, Zion Williamson. So if you listen to last pod, it's the guy that Tate is. Yeah,
I'm in love with.
Tate is going to die.
I saw Zion when he was 14 years old. I fell in love. The same thing happened to me with Harry Giles. I saw him when he was 15, and he broke my heart. If Zion does it again, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, but I will say this. Zion, don't go to Clemson. You don't want to be 0-59. Come to Carolina and be 59-0.
That's a good point. Last thing before we go, I wanted to, again, mention to people that Tate and I are going to be doing a new segment on Fridays where we basically read our manager stories that are sent to us. The Manager Chronicles, I think we're calling it. But we should change it to some sort of pun with dirty laundry, like the manager's doing dirty laundry, because I've noticed we've had a ton of people send us stories already. And pretty much every single one of them is like, hey, don't mention my name because this will get me killed.
Yes.
But I just want to let you know that this coach does this and he's an asshole. And like, that's pretty much, so we should like do some sort of play where like the managers do the dirty laundry. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But for those who are just tuning in, if you know of managers, if you yourself are a manager, if you want to just pretend like you're a manager and send in, and do some creative writing seminar, all of those are fine. Just send us some stories about being a manager, because we're trying to show some love to the managers, the hardest working guys in college basketball. So be sure to do that. We have a ton of fun stories we're going to share on Friday. But otherwise, you got anything else, Tate?
I will say my manager friend that works for the Timberwolves now was with me last night, and I asked him if he would come on the show and tell stories. He said he would not. So,
yeah, he doesn't want to die. I didn't mention send those to at One Shining Pod. We're opening up our direct messages. Send those to at One Shining Pod. Tate will look at them. I'm actually Tate. I don't know if this is relevant, but I'm taking a hiatus from Twitter, so you're gonna have to look at all these. I want to put that out there. I didn't want to like. The move when you take a hiatus is to tweet about how you're taking a hiatus.
Yeah, those are the worst
everyone
people. Just leave.
Everyone just does. Yeah, everyone just does the jerk off thing. But at the same time, I know that people are like tweeting at me about these games and they're wondering why I'm not responding. So I'm gonna say it here, just at the end of the pod. Like I'm just taking a hiatus. So tweet at Tate if you have any thoughts. Tweet him at Tate.
Oh God.
But anyway, that's it. We'll be back Friday. In the meantime, save the crew.